This is another update on my Wily Coyote project, and as you can see, the big change since my last update is the interior is gone. Seats, trim, basically everything is out of here. And there's two reasons I did that. First reason is because the interior from this 2014 GT is going in there. And second reason is, along with the interior from this car, everything else, engine, transmission, electronics, wiring harness, everything is coming out of here and going into this 2009 V6 car. And the big thing I had to get out was the wiring harness. There you can see it laying on the floor. And you can tell exactly the way this car was built is the wiring harness was one of the first things that went in. So to get at it, you have to remove basically everything to get it out of there. Harness itself comes out really easy. It's just a matter of undoing the connectors and popping out a bunch of little fasteners that hold it to the body, and it comes out of there. But getting to it is a little bit of an ordeal. I'm not going to really do a how-to video on how to do all this stuff. There's an awful lot of good videos online already that covers how to remove the door panels and things like that. And it saved me a ton of time doing that. An example is this dash and steering wheel. I had thought that would take me a better part of a day to get that out of there. But after watching a video by a guy named Nick, he did a really good job, and it only took me about an hour to take that dash out. So I will give a link to his video in the description. If you're pulling out a dash, I'd highly recommend taking a watch of that first, and that makes the job a lot easier. As you can see, there's a blown airbag in this steering wheel. That actually came from the 2014. That was in a crash. And I just swapped them around. I just want to make sure that the airbag from this vehicle worked in there, and it does. It's really easy to pull out. There's just a couple of bolts right behind there. And then the whole airbag comes out and a couple of electrical connections. And it fit perfectly in here. Easy to put in there too. And I'm glad, because quite pricey to buy a new replacement one if I needed one. So that's nice that I could reuse that. Another thing that I did find some good videos online for how to pull apart, or how to get these windshield wiper arms off of here. And what you're seeing is not what I saw online. What you really need to do is buy a special little tool. It's like a pulley puller, and it works on here and pulls the arm off. I didn't have that, and I'm not close to a major center where I can just run into town and buy something like that, so I had to improvise a little bit. And this is the setup I used. I used a plier with the curved jaws on there, in behind the wiper arm, a needle nose vice grip here to apply a little bit of force onto the wiper arm, and then I just held on to the vice grip and tapped with a hammer a little bit right there, and it popped right off. And the reason I had to take those off is to get access to the wiper motor and the electrical connection on it. I had to pull that off. While I was in here pulling things apart, I had to get that whole cowl piece off, and I did find a problem. Down at the bottom, you can see a rubber grommet with a hole in it, kind of a slit there. That was completely plugged up, and this entire cavity here was filled with water, right up to and including that filter. I think it was probably almost to the point, or maybe had started to come into the vehicle already. The filter that was in there is super gross, and I'm sure the air quality inside this car was just horrible. So anyway, I unplugged that, drained the water out, took the air filter out of this car, and put it in there. It was in better shape, but I will order a brand new replacement filter and put it in there, and this just generally clean that up a little bit. So I'm glad I was able to find that before I put the whole car back together, and then was wondering what that smell was in there. So that was good. Another big change. So you notice on the side there, it says 5.0, same as this car. Actually, that emblem came off of the other side of this car. There's a wrecked fender. I pulled it off of there and replaced this emblem that wasn't there. It was 45th anniversary one. There too, I watched some videos before I did it, and what I found recommended online was to use fishing line or dental floss and work it around the emblem. There's two-sided tape that holds it on, and it worked, but it was really slow, and I kept on breaking the dental floss and the line. So what I did instead, that seemed to work pretty good, is I heated the emblem up a little bit with a heat gun, and then used these plastic putty knives, I guess you'd call them, used for putting Bondo on vehicles. I slid a couple of those in from each side up to the locating pins on it, and that cut through that two-sided tape pretty good and popped the emblem off. Once the emblem was off, I used a little bit of lacquer thinner, and that got, once the emblem was off, there was still a lot of tape residue on there. I heated that up again with the heat gun and peeled off as much as I could, just leaving some glue residue, and then the glue residue I got off with a rag with a little bit of lacquer thinner on it, and that seemed to work pretty good. Inside the vehicle, a mistake I made was I disconnected the whole harness before I took the seats out. And the seats were basically in the full back position, and it hid the bolts. You can see those two studs that are sticking through the floor. That's where the seats were bolted onto. I couldn't get at that. So what I had to do is find a schematic for the seats and then find the power wire that went to them. It's the dark green wire. Cut that and strip the end off of it and put 12 volts to it. And then I was able to get power back to the power seat bases and move the seats forward. And then I was able to get those bolts out. In the back of the vehicle here, I cheated a little bit. As you can see, the taillights are different on the 2014 than they are in the 2009. Those are LED. These are just standard bulbs. I'm sure the harnesses and everything are different for them, or the connections are different. So what I did is I just cut the harnesses off right there. And I'll figure that out once I get back here. Some of these other things, that's all for the evap system back there. I might be able to reuse some of those connections off the other harness, but for sure I'm going to have to fabricate something up here. And the reason I didn't do that with the whole car, it would have been much easier just cutting that harness up and taking it out in pieces. But I wanted to use this car as kind of a way to learn how to remove these things without damaging stuff. How to take all the panels off without breaking them. How to get all the connections apart without wrecking any of the wiring, because what I'm going to have to do with this car is make sure that everything comes apart in such a way that I can put it back together into this car. And this was a good trial run for doing that. And so I feel a little more confident tackling this one, that I got a pretty good idea how to pull it apart. It's going to be more time consuming because I'm going to have to label everything in this car and make sure that I can get it all hooked up again into this car. But anyway, I feel better about it now after I was able to get everything out of the 2009. The only other thing I want to give you an update on is I think I mentioned last video that I thought the engine out of this car would be worth about $20 a scrap. I was right. I took it into a recycler, got 18 bucks for it. But I did better with the catalytic converters. I got about 90 bucks a piece for them, so that was another 180 bucks, around 200 bucks for taking that scrap. So that made it worthwhile and will help out with buying the few extra things I'll need to make this project happen. So that's about it for this update. Once I get some more stuff done, I'll post another one. Thanks a lot for watching.